everyone. Welcome to the Felicity, Optimist versus Cynic podcast with us, your hosts, Melissa and Fish. This is a Felicity rewatch podcast. We'll watch an episode each week and join you here to talk about it. Just a quick reminder, the reminder we always give, this is not a spoiler-free podcast. So if you came here not wanting to know anything about what happens in the future of Felicity, we can't promise you that'll happen here. But it's still fun, so stick with us if you can. So I am Melissa, and I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Fish. Fish, how are you doing today?
I'm good today. I took some time and I got lots of sleep, so I am ready.
Oh, good. Well, we know from the last couple episodes that was not necessarily the case, so I'm glad to hear that you're back on track now.
Yes. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, we are here to talk today about season 1, episode 15. This one was called Love and Marriage. It originally aired February 23rd, 1999, directed by Todd Holland and written by a team, Jennifer Levin and Andrea Newman. So this one, the summary is, Felicity receives a marriage proposal from a green card seeking Javier, and Noel gets a visit from his brother who shocks him with news that he's gay. Also, Ben takes up swimming. So normally, Fish, I'd throw it over to you and say, where do you want to start? But I think I'm going to start on this one because I don't know about this episode, Fish. And the reason why is I feel like I've seen these names come up before from this writing team. I've seen this name come up before from this director. So I'm not sure why it feels like these people have never seen the show. For me, it feels like there's a bunch of storylines that come literally out of nowhere, to the point where one even gets acknowledged, like, Javier needing to, he's going to be deported soon. And Felicity tells this to Noel, and Noel says, and he just figured this out. And I feel like the whole episode for me is like, where did this come from exactly? And how is this like urgent now? And I didn't necessarily buy the versions of all the characters that we got here. So I just wanted to take your temperature. How are you? Did this episode land for you?
I mean, it seemed like they wanted to do a theme episode. Mm-hmm. And in order to do a theme episode, they just started throwing people who were gay out there and creating issues for them.
It happens with everything, though. Like even Ben starts to swim.
Ben was swimming.
It's like out of nowhere. And Julie's like, "You're going to the pool again?" It's like, we've never seen him go to the pool ever, or even talk about it. I don't know. Like, I feel like when he was trying out for the track team, there was a lead-in of like him having a conversation about running shoes with Felicity. I don't know. It just felt like the writers were given a direction. This is what this episode is about. And they had to make it happen. And it's so strange to me that I feel this way about it, because if you look back at Todd Mulcahy Part 1, I mean, that was random, right? Yeah. And they somehow weaved it in really well. And this feels like, I don't know that it worked for me as well with them trying to open up all these storylines.
Well, I think with Todd Mulcahy, he came in and pulled together a bunch of themes that were already in the show. Whereas this was, I mean, they just sort of threw a bunch of stuff in there and then new people on top of it.
Yeah.
So it did feel like,
there are quite a few new people.
Where did this come from?
Yeah, it really did to me. And so I'm going to apologize to the listeners up front. I mean, if you love this episode, I guess maybe talk me through why you love it. Right? Just let us know. Because I agree with you, Fish. I think they were absolutely going for a theme. And I think that they got there. It feels weirdly almost like a bottle episode, but it's not. And there's some stuff that they opened up that I guess they're going to explore more in the future. But it just felt a little jarring to me.
Yeah, and we have time in between these. And we also think about them and record them. So I also feel like it's very jarring coming off of Todd Mulcahy Part 2, because, there was all this stuff that was opened up in those episodes. Right. Yeah, and they didn't follow any of them. So, like, there's nothing about Julie and her mom. There's nothing about the art studio. All of the things.
Maybe that's what this is. You're right. Yeah. Like, we just had this really important stuff happen. And then they were like, okay, we're going to put that stuff over here. And now we're going to think about this important stuff. Okay. Yeah. You're right. That's probably what I'm reacting to, because I feel like they set me up really well for something.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen.
No, I do feel like Felicity going into the art studio would have been something I would have expected.
Yeah.
From this next episode.
Thank you for putting that context to it. Because I think that is because I made all this noise the last 2 episodes about how this is setting up the future. And then in this episode, it was a setup for nothing. Like, this is a complete like spin-off story from where we were the last 2 episodes. So, okay, that's probably what's happening here. My brain, folks, it works logically. It's like, I had this teacher in middle school, this English teacher, Ms. Bolin. She was great. And she had some things that she said, or things she like made mnemonic devices for, that I just remember them well into the future. And so she always used to say, in terms of story construction, she'd say, tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them what you told them. And so it was like actually a really smart way of setting things up, because it's like, you announce what you're going to say, then you say it, and then you debrief what you said to your audience. You remind them what just happened, and it helps keep the audience along for the ride. And I think that often happens with shows when they like show you something that's going to come up later, or they'll like, we call it like Chekhov's, whatever, like Chekhov's gun or something like that. You see a gun in the beginning of a movie, it's probably going to get used later. Well, that often is how this show works, and it didn't really happen here. So this was just like, we were telling you this story, we're going to throw this stuff in the middle now.
Yeah, and it's something must happen, right? Because I remember that like this is not the end of Javier. So like he leaves to go to Spain, but for some reason he comes back.
Yes.
And
yes, folks, we're going to get a lot more of Javier in the future. I don't think in this season, though.
Oh, so he did leave for like the whole rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, we're at episode 15. There are 21 total in this season. So I'm guessing he was just, he was contracted for a certain number of episodes. This is how they kind of exited his storyline. He's going to come back, I believe, in season 2, if I'm right.
Okay. That makes a little more sense, because for me, it was also jarring because I didn't realize that he didn't come back. I was kind of assuming that within the next couple of episodes, he'd be back. And then that would have been really weird. Like, why send him off?
They're actually going to bring some other person in to be a manager of that Dean and DeLuca location. So we'll see a little bit of that person, but we're going to get Javier again.
Okay.
But it's going to be a little while before we do. So yeah, they didn't just ship him off to Pamplona to bring him right back. He's not going to show up in the episode like, we wouldn't believe what happened on the plane. They are, I think it was probably just, he has only so many episodes he was supposed to do. And
like, I got a letter from my birth mother. I'm actually American.
Yeah. They're going to bring him back. They're going to find a way. It's just not going to be the second after he leaves.
Okay. right.
It'll be long enough where we'll see another Samuel in the future, and it will be another Samuel.
Well, yeah, that was the other thing. This is the first time we've seen Samuel, and he has no lines.
This will be the only time we see this Samuel.
Okay.
Poor guy. But yeah, he got face checked anyway. Like, I don't know, he's in it. Congrats.
I guess. I mean, good job, Samuel 1.
Yeah, there's going to be a Samuel V2 who gets a little bit more to do.
Okay.
But that's going to be quite some time in the future. But yeah, I mean, for those of you who were upset that you don't get a lot of, Javier to this point, boy, there's going to be a lot of him later. They'll bring him back, I promise.
Adorable. He's
Yeah.
adorable. We love the comedy that he brings, and even though this episode was very, as you've kind of alluded, random, there were still these really funny moments in it that I enjoyed. I love that it opened up with the hairnet.
Yeah.
Because I remember the hairnet. That's what I remember.
And I was thinking when I saw Ben's hair, I thought, wow, his hair looks especially beautiful today. And then Javier comes straight over and he's like, nope. You have got to get that under control. Here's your hairnet. You don't want to wear a black hat. You're going to wear a hairnet. Sorry.
And I was very surprised when he actually wore it later. I did not expect that to happen.
Yeah, because he thinks the lawyer that's come in to talk with Felicity and Javier is actually somebody from the Board of Health, and that now more than ever, he needs to wear his hairnet. And he does so in, he is very clear with this woman that he's got a hairnet on. He lingers in front of them for quite some time.
Yeah, I don't know why he thought she was the Board of Health. Like, why would they be sitting down with Felicity? Like, yeah. I can understand them talking to Javier and like walking around and checking on things, but just sitting at a table and talking to Javier and Felicity doesn't seem like what a health inspector does. But
no, I mean, there's literally no reason for this except that Ben needed to wear a hairnet. Like they wanted Ben wearing, like in the, when they got their whiteboard out, they were mapping out what happens in the show. They thought, when can we get Ben in a hairnet? And it was going to happen now. This is how they did it.
So I had a question too. So in this opening scene, Felicity is talking about, she takes a call from Noel, and she's talking about how he got, some spot in a graphic design exhibition.
And I think they're calling it some sort of an expo.
Yeah. And then Ben has this very weird reaction where he kind of looks at her funny and he says something like, oh, I guess you were right when you said he was talented. And I kind of took that to be like he was a little jealous, which I thought was very, yeah, but it's weird, right? Because he's with Julie and we don't see anything else about him being jealous. So I don't know. I've been confused for a few episodes with Ben on little things like that, where I've just seen, I don't know, the relationship between him and Felicity seems a little weird.
Well, I mean, you're asking somebody who thinks this whole episode's a little weird. So it's so hard to know. This is the kind of thing where it's like the stuff they give us in this episode. Do I build that into the character's story in my own head, or do I like discard it as, I don't know if they nailed it. But with this particular thing, this is not the first time that you've said, in fact, there have been quite a few times that you've said that you feel like Ben is giving her a look, or maybe there's a little jealousy, or maybe there's a little bit of feelings there. So I don't know. I'm prepared to not discard this because you've seen notes of it before. And so I don't know, maybe there's something there. I will say that the relationship right now between Ben and Julie, yeah, it's a relationship. But do I feel like I see love oozing out of every pore? Not really. I mean, Ben's been withholding information from her. He never told her about trying out for the track team and not making it. He hasn't really been involving her in his interest in swimming until this episode. We get the feeling in that first conversation they have that she's seeing that this is becoming really important to him, but he's never communicated to her about it, and she's trying to get him to. So I don't know. And then, like, they're in Epstein Bar. First time we're going to see this location, and Lynn is bartending, and Lynn's drawing something like a weird vibe out of Ben. And, Ben goes into that saying to Julie, I'm not going to try out for the swim team. And then after being kind of a little riled up by Lynn, he's like, I'm trying out for the swim team. And Julie's just sitting there thinking, who is this man? So I don't know if I feel like their relationship is tight. I don't know. Where do you think they are right now?
I don't know. It seems odd. Whereas before, they were having these intimate scenes where they were laying on a bed together and he was reading, what was it, Whitman or something like that. Mm-hmm. Now they're, so first I saw this, so I have to say, Julie's guitar looks awesome.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
beautiful.
That guitar. But I would have assumed that when he's saying, I have to go to the pool to clear my head, he's packing a bag, he would have done what he normally does, which is like reach out and squeeze her shoulder or hold her arm or maybe like give her a kiss on the cheek or something. And there was nothing. And that felt very weird. And he's going hot and cold, which I'm not sure if this is going to be a trait that he continues to have, because, and maybe I'm misremembering this, but I thought when he didn't make the track team, he went and he like sat on the steps with Felicity and she knew that he didn't make the track team.
But he had never told her, and she didn't admit that she knew.
Okay.
So he came away from that.
He didn't get any sense that she knew.
Yeah. Okay. So he didn't invite her to be there with him. She was walking by. She saw him sitting, looking alone and looking dejected on that stoop. And she knew why, but she sat down next to him just to sort of be there. And he kind of didn't allude to what had just happened. He just sort of was like, yeah, I'm sitting on the stoop looking out at the world. And she got up from that conversation and she never told him that she had seen him not make the track team. So he still thinks that's a secret from everybody.
Okay. So then that makes more sense. But I also think it's very weird. I feel like you either run or you swim. So I played water polo and I was a swimmer. And, we were told, like, stay off of land, because you can get hurt. And, do not join inland activities. We did not run. And I feel like a lot of the people who ran or played soccer or something like that did not swim particularly well. And readers, I will share this with you. Melissa is a fantastic gymnast and was not the coach. What's the word I'm looking for?
Captain.
Captain. She was the captain of the team. And I have been in the pool with Melissa, and she sinks.
I sinks fast.
Just to the bottom of the pool.
It's a tragedy. People have tried to teach me how to float, and I like, even since a young age, when I was a wee girl, I would just sink from the legs down quick first.
Yes. And I didn't believe her. I really didn't, because my whole life I've spent in the pool. And I was like, there's no way. You don't know how to float. I was like, take a deep breath in, I did all the things, and then I would like let her legs go and she would just sink. She would just sink. So this is like, I feel like there are land people and there are water people. And it is very unlikely that you are going to have someone on the track team who also makes the swimming team.
Well, I'm going to blow your mind here, Fish, because he also really likes to play basketball.
Yeah, but you can do pickup games in basketball. There's a
Yeah.
difference between that. I mean, we had a girl from the basketball team who was like 6'5" or something. I mean, she was ridiculously tall, who played water polo with us. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of worked out. And she wasn't a starter or anything like that, but it's anyway, I'm sure this also happens to you when you watch gymnastics, like in a television show. But I just have such a problem with like swimming. They're saying he's so great at swimming, and then they show him swimming, and he is clearly not good at swimming. And
so here's what's funny. I think that the actor actually did swim. But I remember,
swim, then he
yeah,
can stay afloat, but he is not a
his technique is
college
not, yeah.
swimmer. Like the technique isn't there.
I have a distinct memory. I don't remember much about when you and I watched this in college, but I do remember when you saw him swim in this episode when we were watching it in college. You were like, that is terrible form.
Yes. Okay, well, I'm having the same reaction now. It's terrible.
I'm here to tell you that you and your 20 plus year old ago self have exactly the same viewpoint on his swimming technique.
Because it's true. His body was not in the right position. He was way too close to the wall. And Lane was not much better. And the other thing was, 55 seconds on 100 freestyle? No. I looked up the times, and to qualify for a D1 school, just to qualify for the team, you need a 43.8 second.
Whoa, okay.
And to qualify for even a D4 team, you need 50.9 on the very high end. When I heard 55 seconds, I was like, I don't even think you could qualify for our high school team with that time.
Wow.
So I had a lot of problems with the whole swimming thing.
Yeah. I think just periodically I'm going to apologize to the listeners for us about this episode, because gosh, what happened?
Yeah.
And some of it, so I'm trying to parse through for myself how much of this is like lessons I take forward with me going into the the coming days of the show, versus what we just sort of chalk up to, boy, they had a job to do in this writing room, and it may not have had anything to do with the jobs they had to do in the writing room for the past several weeks. The swimming stuff is really technical, and I'm glad that we have a water polo player's eye to help us understand this. And, certainly as somebody who's a known sinker, I'm not going to be able to give you that kind of feedback. I'm now known around the world for sinking really fast. So I can't give you that kind of feedback, but that's why we have Fish.
Yes. And also, Lynn, shut up. We all had to get up at 5 a.m. and walk through the snow. And you don't even have long hair, because let me tell you, you get out of the pool and it's freezing outside and your hair freezes and then it'll just break. No, just quiet you.
And that's how we meet Lynn, right? Lynn will be somebody that we get to know more in the show, and his girlfriend, Nicole. And we meet him and he's complaining about waking up early for the swim team that he's not even on yet. So I don't understand that part, but that's okay. He's complaining about waking up early, and we'll see. Is
he a freshman?
That's a good question.
I just assumed he was older.
He looks older. I don't know that they specifically say.
They all don't look like they're in college, but that's okay.
Yeah, I feel like he looks a little older than the average, but he, what I do like about him in this episode is that they're introducing us to him and he has a very specific personality. And I think it does shine through in this episode. He's got his theories. Everybody does three things better than everybody else. For him, it's never forgetting a face. He's a bomb parallel parker and he makes the best Harvey Wallbanger in the city. So I don't know, he's got a very specific worldview and he's bringing out a weird energy in Ben. And I think it'll smooth out over time, but I do think that's part of their story initially where it's not that he's bringing out a competitive side of Ben, but it's like, he's jarring something in Ben.
I think it is a little bit of a competitive thing because it's sports, it's the same event, and especially when they were done swimming, it did feel like it was like those are the two alpha males who are going to be competing against each other. Mm-hmm. But in addition to that, I can kind of see, he also brings up the fact that Ben didn't make the track team and all of that stuff. So that's extra. But I feel like personally, from the small bit I've seen so far, I'd really like Lynn. I feel like his personality would be fun and quirky, but I can also see how it would be really grating to some people. And I feel like Ben might be one of those people who's just used to conversations going smoothly. And Felicity is like cute awkward. Lynn seems like he can be maybe a little aggressive awkward.
Yeah, it's hard to know how to classify him because I don't even know if aggressive is the word that I would use. He's bold. He's maybe a little eccentric, but he packages it in logic.
Yeah.
He seems like he's really smart and really out there at the same time. And I get all of that from Lynn. And he's really sort of niggling at Ben here without trying to. This is just him sharing his worldview, sharing the truth. I mean, he saw Ben not make the track team. He has no idea that Ben has never told a single other human that he never made and that he's like deeply ashamed of not making the track team. He just knows it. And so for him, it was like, oh yeah, I saw you not make the track team. Not even fathoming that could be, I really don't think that was him trying to psych out Ben. I think that was him trying to be friendly and be like, I know you from somewhere. Oh, this is where I know you from. And this is just stuff that's really eating at Ben. I also think that, and this is the first time, as many times as I've watched this show, this is the first time I've ever really thought about this. Lynn has a theory that everybody does three things better than anybody else. But Ben, later on in the episode, says to Julie, every single other person in our group has something they're really good at. Mm-hmm. And he's saying that because he feels like he doesn't have a thing. And so that's why he wants the swim team. It was why he wanted track. But he's like remarking on what everybody else has got. And he doesn't feel like he has got anything to hook on to. And then here's Lynn coming and said, everybody else got three things that they do better than everybody. And he's like, I can't even think of one. So I thought that was really interesting. I think that Lynn is bringing to the forefront some things that Ben is seeing as an inadequacy in himself right now.
Yeah, I definitely think that makes it worse as the episode goes on. But even in that kind of, it's not, I guess it is kind of the introduction in the, like after Ben has already been swimming once, and then they're in the mail room, and sort of his first introduction to Lynn is Lynn saying, I know you from somewhere. And this was the part where I thought it was a little aggressive. Ben says, I don't think so. And then Lynn steps forward and says, no, I know you from somewhere. And then he steps forward again and he like gets into Ben's space and like insists that he knows him. And he's very intense, I think. And then Ben makes, kind of like an awkward comment about, I've had I had a car, you could parallel park it. But Ben seems very defensive in this episode.
That might be it. And it's bringing out a sarcasm in him. His coping mechanism in this situation seems to be sarcasm and then like fighting back. And when I say fighting back, I mean taking it into the pool. So so yeah, it's a really interesting vibe. And I think that I believe that this is where these two characters start. Their relationship will evolve, but I do believe this. And I'm glad that you came away feeling like Lynn's a little out there, but you kind of like him, because I think he's basically a likable character, I think, throughout the show. I mean, I don't know if I've met a lot of people who are like, Lynn must die. So I enjoy him. I think, he's a really interesting character.
And he's a redhead. I mean, yay for the redheads.
And I just think it's nice to see this guy who I really do think of him as like the smart guy who's a little out there. He's like, he's in his own world. He's probably always been in his own world his whole life, but he seems to be able to mesh well with other people when you look overall at the whole show. And yeah, I think he's probably really misunderstood, but finds a way to be affable about it anyway.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see more of him. I mean, I really don't remember much of him, any of him, but I feel like I'm going to like him.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Well, we'll see how it goes. You'll get more opportunity with him in this season. So let's circle back, because we started on a topic, then we immediately moved off of that topic to talk about Ben and his swimming. So let's go back on. So, actually we touched upon a few different things. Where could we go now? We could go anywhere we want. So we do open the show. Javier sits down with Felicity, gives her a raise, and then proposes marriage.
So I misunderstood this. When he said, I want you to marry me, I thought he meant officiate.
Oh.
Yeah. And so it took me a minute to come back around. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took me a minute to get to the green card part of it.
Yeah. Well, I'm now seeing that possible interpretation, because he is not married to Samuel. He is dating Samuel. Yeah. And okay. Well, clarification needed here. Javier is asking to marry Felicity.
Apparently. And it was awkward because there was the whole intro break in between him saying like marry me and then the Dear Sally tape, when she starts talking about her dream wedding not being to a short balding homosexual at City Hall.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, maybe she's not officiating.
I can see how that would have been confusing. Okay. So, well, that's not what they were trying to do. That's not what they were getting at. I'm glad you got there eventually. But that does shift the understanding of the beginning of the story. I mean, it's pretty important for this particular episode that you understand as soon as possible that Javier just proposed to Felicity.
Yeah.
And that he's doing so because he is going to be deported soon. He can't stay in the US, and he's hoping for a green card marriage. And that is what he is proposing to Felicity. And again, this is where we get to the part where, when Felicity's telling Noel, and he's like, and he just figured this out. I had the same reaction. Noel was me in that moment.
So Noel was also me, but for a different reason, because he looks at her and says, well, you said no, right? Which was kind of my reaction. I was like, okay, officiate. Nope, actual marriage, but you're not going to marry him, right? And then Felicity says, well, it's cool to help someone out. And I'm thinking back, like, if I, like, when I was 19, like, I
Mm-hmm.
get that she's like impulsive and doesn't think things through, but I don't know. This seems like a really major thing that she is not thinking about at all. And throughout the episode, she starts to realize it's like more and more serious.
Mm-hmm. This is
So,
not the so and I would say to you that this is unusual for Felicity, but it's not. When I look at the whole series, this is not going to be the only time where she says a quick yes to something and then starts to unpack the details of what that means and starts to get freaked out about it. So
but she didn't do any research. I get that. That's the part that bugged me. She says yes. And then if it was Felicity, I would assume she would immediately go and do a bunch of research about it. Like she loves books, but she does no research whatsoever. And then comes to this meeting with the lawyer and is like, prison time? What?
well, I think that when we see the types of scenarios that they'll put her in where she has this reaction, she tends to do her research by talking with people, which I suppose is a more cinematic way to show you because she can react in a conversation more so than like Felicity goes to library and stares at book and has a reaction to something she read that we can't see. So she'll tend to go out and have a conversation with somebody, and that's where she learns her information. And in this case, it was the lawyer who was delivering it to her.
And she
So
did need to talk to a lawyer. It's just unfortunate that Javier was sitting right there while she
yeah.
was getting the information for the first time.
Yeah. So I want to say to you that this is unusual, but it's actually not. I feel like this is something about her character that she does make these big choices and she makes them and then she finds out what they entail. And it might even put in more context the pilot if you know that she's somebody who would do something like this.
Well,
So,
but I
I
think for
mean,
the pilot, she did have to do a bunch of research for that. Like she had to decide, like she had to make she had to do the application. She had to figure out where she was going to be living. She had to figure out, you know, money. Like she had to go through a bunch of steps there.
she did, but it mostly happened off screen.
Yeah.
So, we know it had to have happened at some point. We just didn't get a chance to see it. And, that's kind of how it's unfolding here.
hmm But I did love Megan's reaction.
Uh-huh.
Where, I mean, that scene where I just see this boot and I'm like, it's Megan.
Mm-hmm. Applying a temporary tattoo.
Yeah, of course. I mean, as you do. Um, and, and she's just like, man, every time I have you figured, I think I've got you pegged. You do something bitchin', like a
Yeah.
green card marriage. And she's like, so you get in a car? And this for me just like warmed my heart because Javier is in the room at this point and he looks at her, at Felicity and says, do you want a bike? And this makes me so happy because if you go back and you look at her room, and this is something that I have been going off on, not on,
Yes.
yeah, it's just, I've been constantly bugging Melissa about this. Um, she has a coat hanger. And I don't know, since like the first episode or whenever we first see her in the dorm room, there has been a bike helmet on this coat rack. And we have never seen her on a bike. She has
Mm-hmm.
no bike and this random bike helmet. And
Mm-hmm.
so I kind of feel like they're trolling us because they put the bike helmet there and then they actually bring up that she doesn't have a bike.
Yeah.
And Javier offers her to get her one and she says no.
Yeah. I feel like I know you so well because as this was happening, I,
Yeah.
Megan's like, is he buying you a car? And Javier's like, no, but do you want a bicycle?
Yeah.
And I just thought, Fish is going to
Yep.
talk about the bike helmet.
Yep. And it came true.
Yeah, the
True.
prophecy is real.
Yeah.
Wow, it really played out just the way I wanted it to. That's like the most satisfying thing that's happened in this episode. So that happened, and she's still not going to have a bike. Sorry.
No. But I bet you that bike helmet's still going to be there.
Yeah. Well, so it is. But yeah, I mean, so this is an interesting storyline in terms of showing Felicity and how she approaches things. She initially is planning to say no after giving it a little thought. She says there's only one real reason to get married, and that's for love. And when she says that, it's with the tone of, I don't love Javier in that way, and so I will not marry him. But the very next time she sees him, he's upset. He's crying because Samuel can't get transferred to Pamplona. Pamplona is only for big shots. And he is not a big shot. And so we're going to be split up, and he's upset about it. And then she realizes if she marries Javier, it would be for love, just not specifically hers.
Not her love. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is sort of the romantic in Felicity that's coming out. This is definitely a motivating factor for her to make decisions in other scenarios. And so she's saying yes, but doesn't really know what it means until he goes through the list of like, okay, so first we're going to do this. And then 6 months later, we're going to do this. And then a year later, and she's like,
yeah.
Oh my God.
She didn't even realize this was like a multi-year process.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not good. And the other, okay, so her and Javier do not practice. They don't learn things about each other.
Mm-hmm.
But in my head, when they were about to talk to the lawyer, I wrote down like they have to practice. And this is the moment where, Felicity again cannot keep her mouth shut. I mean, she says exactly what we're all thinking, which is, I mean, do you really think this lawyer's going to believe that you're straight? I mean, she just says it.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, oh, no, okay, I'm flattered. She is the worst liar. I mean, she is not the person that you want to bring into a situation where under pressure, they have to be good at lying.
Mm-hmm.
This is the wrong person. And I agree, she should sleep on it and see a therapist.
Yeah, because the lawyer, sitting down at this table, she knows exactly what she's seeing happen in front of her. Like, she's seen it a million times. It's the 1,000,001th time, 1,000,001st time, whatever that is. And she is so wonderfully not even just suspicious. She is in full disbelief of what she is seeing in front of her.
She's jaded. She's just, there's no shock. She's just like, yeah, okay. I mean, this is not real, but okay.
Mm-hmm. She's like, you get what the liability is here for you, correct? Like, you understand that I have communicated to you. Like, please nod your head if you understand what I am saying. Great. All right.
Yeah. It's like, I am your lawyer. Let me lay these things out for you. You must support him. You are going to be completely in charge of everything he does. You are going to have fines. You could go to prison. I mean, she just goes through all these things. At no point does she in any way believe that these two are together. Mm-hmm. And I have an award here that I would like to give for the best misspoken idiom. Mm-hmm. When Javier afterward, Felicity's like, I don't really think she was convinced. Javier says, no, she bought it hook, line, and fish.
Yep. That was my favorite line. That is the line we will use as a quote this week. I loved it. They do such great lines with him like that, where you're like, oh, that's not the line, but I appreciate you and I know what that means, and I'm going to roll with this. She bought it hook, line, and fish.
Yep.
Plus, he name checked you.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the thing. So,
come to think of it, this was a very good fish episode. on
I
a lot of
mean,
levels. There's something I haven't even mentioned yet that I'll bring up a little later when we talk about Ryan. But
yeah,
we've got Ben in the water. We've got
yeah,
Javier talking about fish.
yeah.
You must have felt very seen.
I mean, it wasn't the greatest episode to be seen in,
I know.
but but I will say, yes, there were many kind of callbacks to my experience as a fish in the water.
Yeah. Yeah, so they
So
get
do we
about
want
as
to?
far as this, right? I mean, I think where they land with this is after that meeting with the lawyer, Javier encourages Felicity to sleep on it. She's like, you know what? I think I might just do that. And then before she knows it, Samuel has fought for getting a transfer to Pamplona, and the miracle has happened, and she doesn't have to get married to Javier after all, because Samuel and Javier are going to move back to Spain and be there together, and all's well that ends well.
Yeah, and I think they had to do that, right? Because otherwise, the rest of the season and the next 2 years, she was going to be dealing with a green card marriage
Mm-hmm.
and everything that then required.
Yes. Well, I guess in a way, this is sort of an educational episode. I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, sort of in the way that Drawing the Line part 2 was educational, and part 1 for that matter, the whole sex education bit. I guess they were doing something a little similar to that here. They really lay out the steps for you and make the risks clear. And I don't know if there are a lot of shows that were talking about this in that level of depth, but they did it here, and that was the directive. So it's
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking, like, what are her parents gonna say? I mean, if this actually happened, I mean, I can imagine her dad like calling the cops on them.
it wouldn't have gone well, right? I
No,
mean,
no.
gosh, she's at a real crossroads.
Mm.
Because not for nothing, but from a personal standpoint, she's also been thrown into total disarray about her future career. So
Yeah,
I don't know. We'll get back to that eventually, but in this episode, we're going to have her flirt with a possible marriage. And yeah, I think
yeah,
it's like a mid freshman crisis or something.
sure. Before the quarter life crisis was a thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh boy. I also like how she introduced the whole thing to Noel, because he's
oh,
talking about Ryan. He's obsessed with the stuff that's happening with Ryan, and he's just talking nonstop about that. And she desperately wants to tell him that she was just proposed to. And so she just says, okay, this might be rude, but are we done with that topic now? It's
yes,
like as abrupt as everything felt to me in this episode was that.
yep.
Perfectly matched how I felt. And I have never noticed how many conversations, like serious conversations, Noel has while holding an armload of something. In this case, it was so many books.
Yeah, it
Why
does
was
seem
he
to be a
trying to
thing.
carry that many books?
I I don't know, but I'm starting to notice this too, because you picked up on it in several episodes, and you're right.
It
He's
happened with the
always
laundry. It happened with the
cleaning.
iMac.
Yeah, I don't know if he's like cleaning or rearranging, or maybe when he gets flustered, he just needs to rearrange things. I I don't know. Like
It was
a
like,
little
the way you
work.
carry a lot of laundry. That's how he was holding a lot of books. There are so many smarter ways to do it. And if you're trying to straighten up, this is not the way. Put it down at some point. Like, to transfer said books from one location to another.
Mhm.
But that's not how he rolls.
No. I mean, he's not on a sports team or an intramural team, so maybe this is how he gets his workouts.
Yeah.
Just holding random stuff
Maybe he was
while
about to
having
put them into his locker. Something's got to go in those lockers, right?
yeah, I
Ah,
I don't know. But
gosh.
so Noel here, I think this episode was very interesting, I think both for Noel and Ben, because I've always felt that Noel, at least since we started watching this, that Noel has been insecure.
Mm-hmm.
And I always think that's a recipe for disaster. Like insecurity, breeds jealousy and violence and all this other stuff. So part of, his insecurity is coming up and he's saying, my brother's coming out. He's the talented one. Like I followed in his footsteps, all this kind of stuff. And, Ben is also going through his own insecurity around kind of having something to call his own, I guess, something that he's really good at. And whereas Ben kind of shuts down, gets defensive, maybe becomes a little snappy and moody, which, P.S., I just generally hate you guys, but yeah, it's just me. Noel gets awkward and flustered and apparently picks up a lot of stuff. And so I don't know. It's two very different reactions to insecurity. And then Noel goes through this whole internal journey in this episode that I actually think he did really well. I mean, Scott Foley played this really well because there was a lot going on that was never actually called out. And I just feel like he showed a lot of emotions.
Scott Foley did a good job showing how they wanted him to play Noel. And I'm still trying to decide if what they showed us about Noel is him. I can't really decide that. You don't feel like it was?
No, I do feel like it was. And maybe it's because I haven't seen him in the future episodes, but up till now, I can absolutely see this being who he is because we have to remember the time period again, right? And as much as he, comes off as sort of like sweet and, although that might be in debate now.
I know, we've really been reviewing that, haven't we?
Yeah, because he does say these things that kind of come from the way that I've termed it is kind of just how he feels about the world. And I don't like sometimes how he feels about the world. Things that he will say to Felicity that sort of, quote, seem like a joke, but maybe aren't. And I feel like we're getting a lot of that here because this is kind of the time period when, the conversation about gay culture was like some people on the more progressive side were like, I understand it, or no, I accept it, but I don't understand it. And that was kind of the conversation.
Yeah.
Or I'm not comfortable with it.
Yeah. I guess it's tricky for me to really unpack where he's coming from here because I feel like as a character in the show and even as an RA at times, he's been a good listener or like given more open advice in situations where he doesn't feel really personally impacted. So it's hard for me to figure out because he seems really non-accepting in the whole interaction. Like it's very like pulling teeth. Like he's getting information and it's making him reel. And then he comes back and he apologizes for reeling. And then he gets a new piece of information that makes him reel even more. And it's like a cycle that, because we see Ryan comes back. Noel thinks that he's going to tell him that he's proposed to his longtime girlfriend. Then Noel finds out his brother's gay. Then Noel finds out his brother's in a serious relationship. Then Noel finds out that his brother is going to basically get married pretty soon and have a commitment ceremony. And so there are these levels that happen. And it's as if, like, I don't know if I can, I guess, expand his reaction to Ryan as how he feels about these things in general, because I think that he feels like it's a real personal hit.
Yeah.
Like he thought he understood his brother, and he's realizing how little he actually does understand his brother. And so his non-acceptance moments, I don't know where it's coming from exactly. And
Yeah.
as an RA, I can't imagine he hasn't had people come into, we've never seen it, but I can't imagine that he hasn't had people who are on his floor or in his dorm who are living this lifestyle, right? So it can't be brand new to him. And
No,
he
you'd be
tends to meet
surprised.
these things with research and like looking at his RA handbook. So for me, it feels like more of an issue that he thought he knew his brother and doesn't.
Um, I did not feel that
You
way
didn't feel that way?
about
Okay.
it. I mean, I do feel like everything he had was a very personal reaction to him.
Mm-hmm.
And it is very different to meet someone who is not close to you versus like your brother,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think he is going through a bunch of emotions all at the exact same time.
Yeah.
And he's kind of bouncing all over the place. And I think that's what he played so well,
Mm-hmm.
is this mix of emotions um, that I think are really relatable.
Mm-hmm. I saw
So
denial big time in there.
yes, absolutely. And I mean, I'm thinking about 90, what, this is 99 now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still in high school, but there was not a single person who was out in my high school. And it would not have been, I mean, there were certainly people who were gay, but it would not have been looked on favorably by the administration. And they actually made PDA rules about, you know, like, you couldn't even have like two girls, like one sit on the other's lap, or something like that, which friends do.
Mm-hmm.
And we had dances, and there were rules that you could only bring someone of the opposite sex. And so, that's the atmosphere that we're in. We're
Mm-hmm.
in an uncomfortable, and I think especially for males at that time, um, this is a guy that Noel has looked up to his entire life. He has idolized him, and part of what he has idolized about him is how good he was with women.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's going through, and he's talking about, every girl, he had all the best girls, and, these girls could have dated anyone and they pick him. So part of it is he has been aspiring to be like his brother. And then his brother's gay. What does that say about him? So he's got some personal stuff going on there.
And I will say, because you picked up a slightly different note here, because you're commenting about his, like, he was the king of studs, like he had all these girls, but Noel is specifically often talking about Amy Leone, which was Ryan's girlfriend of a long time.
Mhm.
And he really put their relationship on a pedestal in a way that makes me think that Felicity is his Amy Leone.
Mhm.
Um, so it
Yeah,
also might be throwing that relationship up into review again as he uncovers this information about Ryan.
absolutely. I mean, I think he takes this very personally because of the way that he's idolized his brother and thought about his own life in relationship to
Mm-hmm.
him. And then everything that you said, I also think is true. He's also having all of these reactions of, no, I didn't know my brother, and, how has he not told me this? And he's supposed to be close to me. And so there's some kind of righteous indignation there. And like, you should have trusted me with this. And at the same time, I think he's also uncomfortable with the concept that his brother is gay. And that is just coming through as well. So he's shifting between these, like, I'm just generally uncomfortable with knowing someone who's gay.
Mm-hmm.
And then what does that mean about me? And then what does that mean about my relationships with Felicity and or other women? And then what does that mean about my relationship with my brother? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I saw all of these things happening and just ping-ponging around in
Mm-hmm.
most of the scenes.
Yeah.
And I thought he did that so well, because I feel like that's the reaction a person would have. There would be all of these different things going on inside of them when they hear big news.
Yeah. And I think, with that, there's like that, okay, there's a change happening and I want to bring things back to stasis. So he keeps saying, oh, well, maybe it's just a phase, or maybe you and Amy will get back together. And it's like, ooh, well, that's not happening. No, this is a moment where you need to find your way to acceptance. But what he really wants to be able to do is bring things back to what he was familiar to him.
Yeah.
Which, would be hard if you're Ryan.
And I mean, he is getting all this information at one time.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a lot of information to get at one time. And he does go back and he tries to apologize. And I feel like he's trying to be the guy who's accepting, but he's just not there. He's
definitely not there. And that hits home with Ryan. He's like, oh, I never realized that by being honest, I could lose my family. I could lose you.
Which I don't believe at all, because he hasn't told anyone for his whole life, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's been dating someone for 10 months. He still hasn't told his parents. I feel like that was a bit of a dig at Noel. Because obviously he knew this was not going to be easy.
Yeah. It's hard to imagine that he could not have thought that this would be one possible scenario that would play out. I mean, yeah, I agree with that. I think he says that towards the end of the episode, at which point Noel's like probably got as many reveals from Ryan as he's going to get for a little while. And he's sort of sat with it and he's like, all right, I'm here ish. And so he's like, no, you're not going to lose me. And they go into his exhibit and it looks like they've gotten to a workable place. And that he's hopefully closer to being like, this is what's happening now versus fighting it. But it's definitely a road for him here. And we can see it all playing out and it's all happening. And it's really only broken up with one moment of levity where they're all, when he meets Alex and they're all at dinner, it's a double date with Ryan and Alex and Noel and Felicity, and they're having dinner, and it becomes a very, very uncomfortable, honest argument where Noel's like, stops just throwing all this stuff. I'm like, you're getting committed now. Like, what is happening here? I don't understand. And he gets up and he walks away, and Ryan walks away, leaving Felicity and Alex at this table together. Alex, who hasn't barely said a word that we have seen. And there's this moment of incredibly awkward silence that Felicity breaks with the best way of breaking it, I think, which was, I'm going to marry a gay guy too. It was like, we just, we had this episode and it resulted in that joke.
Yeah. And again, not a good liar. She's just going to tell everyone. It's not.
And I like this guy who plays Alex. They simply found somebody who could give the look that he gives after she says that, like the just total bewilderment, like mixed with incredible discomfort that everybody he was supposed to know just walked away from the table.
Well, and it's funny because we get these other characters. So we get Samuel and we get Alex. And I was listening to another podcast, I think, and they were talking about how, there's different pay schedules for people. So if you don't say any lines, they only have to pay you so much. And if you say like two or less lines, they have to pay you so much. But if you say more than two lines, then you're kind of fully in the show. And so the amount goes up. So I feel like they were trying to keep these other characters silent so they didn't have to pay them.
Yeah.
Which is like, I guess, normal on television shows. But it was just really awkward to have them there and have them be these central figures that say nothing.
Yeah. This show to this point hasn't necessarily done a stellar job of bringing somebody in for a short time and then sending them packing and making us understand how it happened. I think that they've and maybe that's a season 1 issue, because I think as we get into like season 2 and beyond, it is going to be a little bit more about like overarching story and less about this episode as a PSA for something. So, and even the ones that are a PSA, they still feel like they have a story in them usually, but they have a lot more work to do in this first season of like, here's somebody we're bringing in and now we're going to make them go right back out again. And the ability to make that believable and give us an entry and an exit that makes sense. They haven't always done a great job, especially with the exits. As we have referenced Tara/Tara many times,
Tara.
Yes. But I'm sure there are other examples of this too. We're certainly seeing a bit of that in this episode.
I mean, they just brought Todd in and let him get hit by a bus and then leave with his fiance.
Yeah, he's just gone now. So, that's it. It's the end of Todd.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, it was worth it. It was definitely worth it for us. But
you got to wonder though, now that it's been a little time for Todd and Rebecca, because even after they pack him up and put him in the van, Todd's still like, that kiss was pretty amazing. So I have to wonder for poor Rebecca, like, is this a guy who's satisfied, like his whatever question marks he had, or is he just going to keep talking about this Felicity?
I don't care. I mean, she should never have gone out there. Like, whatever. He leaves to go kiss another woman. Like, bye.
Yeah.
Nope. I'm not coming out there. I don't care that you got hit by a bus. I'm not bringing you home. I'm not nursing you back to health. Like, you suck.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, I don't know what else to say to that, because of all the things that were pissing me off in that last episode, she was one of them. I was like, you are enabling this behavior.
Yeah.
Stop it.
I've reopened a wound. I apologize. Yeah. Well, I also wanted to point out a funny moment for me. There's a lot of stuff that happened in this episode that's funny if you listen to the muttering. So there's a point when you walk into Noel's graphic, the exhibit where he has some work on display. And there's a bunch of artists in the room probably talking to people about their work. And Noel is mid-conversation with somebody who appears to be interested in his fonts that he's created. And he is delivering a really boring, uninteresting bunch of word salad about what he created. And I can't even repeat back to you what he said. All I know is he was explaining something about font as structure. Yeah. And it went on for about 10 seconds. He's throwing a lot of words that don't seem to go together. And then he sees Felicity and just exits the conversation.
Just walks away.
Yeah, he's like mid-sentence.
Yeah. I was like, you are talking to someone who's actually interested in this.
Yeah.
And you're giving a whole monologue on like your creation of your art, and just
it's like developing the design of font structure and bye. It's like, is there no other way to do this?
Yeah. No, that was ridiculous. I agree. I felt the same way.
Like, at least have somebody interested and have them be like, thank you for your comments.
Mhm.
Like make it an
Or say
endable.
like, I'll be right back in a minute. Have the conversation with Felicity. He can, well, I guess he couldn't really walk off because then he saw Ryan, but like, at least say you're going to come back.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was like just flitting about in that room as if it had nothing to do with his career.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Noel for you.
But I loved the conversation he had with Felicity where he just looks at her and is like, well, this was just a very Felicity thing to do. I was like, I
Kind of
don't know how
is.
to take that.
It kind of is. Like if you get further into the series and you see more examples of stuff like this, it's like, yeah, maybe that
Yeah.
tracks for me as something that would. I think I know what he means when he says this is a Felicity thing to do. I think there's an impulsiveness
Uh-huh.
about her that comes from a good place, whether or not it's fully researched or aware of consequences. And I think that's what I think of when I think of this as a Felicity thing to do.
All right.
Yeah.
So she just never learns.
She sometimes leaps before looking.
Right.
I mean, it's
Um,
even like, and this is a different example, but rewriting Ben's paper.
sure.
Why? Like, why? But I suppose that also was a Felicity thing to do, where she just went and did it and thought about it later. Too
Yeah.
late, you might say.
But this is why with the paper thing, I think there should have been some more severe consequences for her because she's never going to learn if like other people keep bailing her out or like magically the script like doesn't have her deal with any of them.
Yeah.
So I do
Yeah.
wonder if in the future, and they probably will. I mean, I'm sure you guys are thinking of examples who know the show better. She probably will have to face some consequences at some point. But I don't know. It'll become increasingly frustrating to me if she doesn't learn, and
Well,
and
she
she may
often
not.
doesn't. Uh,
Oh,
uh,
well,
I mean, I can think of some examples later where she'll be in a relationship and she'll do stupid stuff and it'll have an impact on the relationship. But I think that some of these bigger things that are just like so random don't necessarily bear out in punishment or consequences. So, so I guess the working theory that you've got is had she just been penalized more for rewriting Ben's paper, perhaps she wouldn't have gotten this close to a green card marriage.
well, and other things along the way,
Yeah.
just maybe if, I don't know, Ben had caught her staring at him from the shadows as he was running around the track and had said, "Get away from me, you stalker,"
Mm-hmm.
or I mean, just these things that she does that you're like, ah. Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
if she actually had to deal with the consequences of them, or if she went through a green card marriage, then I don't know, maybe in the future she would not do something else.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not why we watch the show, I guess, because this is a very important part of her, or
And
something
maybe
that
she
will at
doesn't.
least be a factor.
Yeah, and maybe she doesn't learn, and that's just part of who she is. And being also a very logical person, it will drive me a little insane, but I also just will have to accept her as she is.
Well, this actually dovetails very well with my notes from an optimist. Thank you for
Oh,
this excellent
yay.
segue, because my notes from an optimist are all about acceptance. And here you are needing to accept that this is the Felicity we're getting.
Yeah, I will have to.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's something to be said for that in this episode where we're saying, a lot of people are figuring out something important about themselves, and the characters, the friends, and other loved ones around them are probably going to be able to have a more productive, healthier relationship if they can find their way to acceptance. And I think we're seeing some examples of people who are having a harder time get there, like Noel, but we're also, finding some people who are really trying to figure out what's happening for the other person. And I think this has a lot to do with listening and trying to understand who somebody really is. And, if you can get to a place of acceptance, it's probably a stronger foundation for the relationship to move forward. So I thought this was an interesting exercise in looking at acceptance at a deeper level. We have it both with the theme that's happening, but we have it with Julie as well, trying to figure out what's going on with Ben and trying to, be there as his girlfriend. And we have it with Felicity trying to figure out what she can do to support love in this scenario. So I think, this idea of acceptance, especially coming off of the last episode where Felicity is in an existential crisis that we've put to the side for a moment, but, she's trying to figure out what her way forward is. And, that will she be supported in that by Noel and the other people around her? I think that all ties in with this idea of if you can be accepted for who you are, it might be a little easier to continue being that and to really find the right path for you.
Yep. I think that makes sense. Not just other people accepting you, but you accepting other people and accepting yourself, kind of being kind to yourself.
Yeah, accepting yourself seems to be a really important thing too. I don't know if we looked at that quite as much here, but I think a lot of that work happens off screen.
Yes.
So
I agree with that.
Yeah. Well, there's
so before. Oh, you go ahead.
No, you go.
I did just want to bring up two particular shots that I thought were really cool. One that I don't think we've seen before, but it was the shot when Ben was swimming
and
they followed him. Mm-hmm. I thought that was just,
It was interesting to see because I've watched a lot of swimming coverage and for sport events, but that's not a shot that people would ever really use because they want to show you like the overhead or the side shot where you can see how close people are to each other. And to see somebody being tracked from behind was really interesting in the pool.
Yeah. And I figured, they must have somehow put a crane like over the pool and then moved it right along with him. So
could have been.
Must have been a tough shot to get, but I think it was worth it. I mean, it left an impression.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And you're really following his journey, literally.
Yeah, it was like you were going in with him, getting us invested. Since apparently the swimming thing is going to be a thing now.
Much to your chagrin.
Well, I mean, look, there's also positives because, there's a lot less clothing being worn.
That's true. And, there's that.
Yeah. I mean, his hair looks good wet. And I'm just saying, I mean, it's not the worst thing.
Yeah. And maybe it'll give you some good sense memories along the way of your own life. I don't know.
I mean, I think it's less likely that than me just staring at him.
Okay. But well, you do you.
Yeah, exactly. You accept me, and I appreciate that. That's how this works. Okay, so the other one I think has, and I mean, you can tell me if I completely have misread this, but towards the end of the tape from Sally, she says something like, when we see people in love, we want to do something for them because we want to be them. Mm-hmm. And at that exact moment, the shot that we have is when she's saying, when we see people in love, the shot is of Javier and Samuel getting in, it's a taxi together. Mm-hmm. And it says, and then as she says, because we want to be them, you pan up to Felicity and Noel, who were just kind of standing next to each other. Mm-hmm. And to me, that felt like them foreshadowing that Felicity and Noel are not actually in love and that it's not going to work out.
Interesting.
Like that sort of the way she was saying it and then panning up was like, we see people in love, Samuel and Javier are in love, and we want to be them, ... but we're not. And
oh my goodness.
Noel and Felicity.
Whoa, that's a big one, fish. So watch this space. But I will also point out the other thing that you didn't point out, which was behind them, off to the side, but not far, is Ben.
I did not notice that.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm gonna have to go back and look at it again.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously they're like kind of dead center in the window. And Ben is a little behind them, a little enough off to the side where you can see him in the frame. But they're the three of them are in that shot. So yeah, that's a really interesting interpretation of that, and a good interpretation of that as far as I can tell. So yeah, you just keep watching that space.
I mean, I figured they can't just be together for the next 4 years. That would be kind of a boring show. So it's probably a good bet that at some point it's not going to work out. But I feel like, I don't know, it feels like it's coming, or at least like a storm is coming or something.
I'm very happy that you had this reaction. I think that you're going to be very satisfied with the next episode.
Oh, this is what I like about the show. I say something and then immediately it happens.
Mm-hmm.
Like Elena just decking Blair, or
that was so incredibly rewarding to watch that play out real time. Hit him. Oh my God, she hit him. That was really something. And I was like, oh, she got what she wanted. Yeah, it makes me so happy when that happens for fans, because you know what? They told us what they were going to tell us. They told us, and then they told us what they told us. We needed Elena to take action, and she did. So I'm actually really happy that this is where your brain is headed, because I was worried that this is just like a random episode in the middle that has nothing to do with anything. And the fact that it seems like it still moved a story forward for you means something.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think there were little pieces in this that they're still going to move forward, like how Ben is going to react to things, and the status of Felicity and Noel, and
Ben is going to, Ben swimming is important in a way you wouldn't think in the show. So getting him to the pool is important. And I guess there's stuff that'll bear out later that couldn't have happened had he not had this happen. So that's good. But some of the really important stuff, I mean, like, they're eventually going to bring Javier back. They're going to find a way to do it. We will see Ryan again, but not much of him. I also wanted to point out the thing that I said I was going to mention and then didn't, because shame on me. So Ryan is played by a guy named Eddie McClintock, and I thought, he looks a little familiar, but have I seen him in anything? And I looked through his credits and I realized, no, he's been in a lot of stuff and I've watched none of it. But the first thing that I saw, the first thing my eyes settled on when I looked at his credits was something called A Fish Story.
Oh, look at that. It all comes full circle.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's a circle or not, but there's definitely several, there are a few at least, fish or water references. So again, I just hope you feel seen.
I do. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, I mean, you had mentioned the idea of Sally's tape. So why don't we go into it and talk about what Sally said versus what she meant? I'll say what she said. You'll tell us what she really meant.
Sounds good.
All right. Dear Felicity, as crazy as it is, I probably would have done the same thing.
I would not have done the same thing.
I would have offered to marry Javier too.
I would not have offered to marry Javier.
Your tape reminded me of something I haven't thought of in a long time.
Pursuant to 8 U.S. Code 1325, any individual who knowingly enters into a marriage for the purpose of evading any provision of the immigration law shall be imprisoned for no more than 5 years or fined no more than $250,000 or both.
Love is complicated, full of sacrifice and compromise, but maybe that's the best part.
I'm not going to discourage you. You're young and impulsive and kind, and it worked out this time.
When you see someone in love, you want to do whatever you can for them.
But at some point, you're going to have to learn that there are consequences for your actions, for you, for your loved ones, legal, psychological, and spiritual consequences.
Because the truth is, you want to be them.
When I took my vows to love and honor and be faithful to John, I meant them with my whole heart. And I hope someday you'll have the same opportunity. Just as long as it's not to Ben. Just kidding. I know you're over him.
Oh my goodness.
You're over him, right?
I mean, Sally's just dishing out some real tough love here.
Well, but she's not telling this to Felicity because she's like, whew, she managed to stay out of this. So I'm not actually going to say anything, but could have been a real mess there.
Yeah. Sally's also gaslighting herself a little bit because she didn't actually marry John. She was a fiance. She was planning to, but didn't actually have.
Sally doesn't always remember her own past.
Yep. That tracks. That totally tracks here. I mean, she has lived a lot of different kinds of life.
Yeah.
In the what Sally meant section.
Exactly. I mean, she's had a lot going on, and maybe it was just a dream, maybe an alternate reality, but we don't know. But
I like it.
Probably more likely that she just doesn't remember what she said in previous episodes.
That's got to be it. I mean, who can when your tapes are a spool of lies? How can you possibly remember all the things you said to Felicity when you meant all this other stuff behind it?
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. Well, as much great listener feedback as we have, there's nothing really specific to this episode. So I thought we might just go straight into rating the episode and see what we think about it. Although I have a sinking feeling about where we're headed. So Fish, why don't you jump in first?
Okay. I'm giving it a 4.5.
Wow.
I mean, I don't really know how to soften that. It was random, and it wasn't that I necessarily disliked all of it. I mean, there were some funny moments, and as we found, some things that will continue into the future. But for most of the episode, I was just thinking, what? Huh? Okay. What?
Yeah.
And that is therefore reflected in my 4.5 glubs.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we warned you, audience. We did.
From the start, we were consistent.
We really were. So I have chosen to rate this episode in hair nuts because what else would you rate this episode in? I want to know, aside from gloves and hair nuts. And I gave this one a 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
So this is our worst episode so far. Look, it's still, watching an episode of Felicity is still watching an episode of Felicity. It's a good use of time.
I was about to say, watching the worst episode of Felicity is still better than not watching an episode of Felicity.
Yeah, and we have a really high bar. We have both had a 10 to this point. We know where those 10s are.
Yeah, and mine was not that long ago.
Yours was recent.
Like 2 episodes ago.
And mine was finally, and there's more to come for me. And this, if I'm comparing up against something like those episodes, this just, we've been saying it, right? Like, this just was a lot of stuff that feels so random in the story. And I just this would have landed differently for me if some of the things that were just plopped on us in this episode were set up a little in maybe the previous episode, which they set up a lot of like this. I think you really pinpointed where my issue was. They did set up a lot of stuff in the last episode, the last 2 episodes. They set up a ton and they ignored it for the purposes of this one. So maybe the issue is that this episode is misplaced.
I feel like it could have been, I think you're right. It could have either come sooner or later, although they've already packed a lot of stuff in sooner. So
the problem is that looking at what's ahead, they would have had a hard time doing exactly this episode later.
Yeah, and that's where I'm coming down on. Maybe it would have made more sense to take everything that was in this episode and put it across 2 or even a little bit into a 3rd episode and actually take some of those things they set up and put them also in the other episodes.
Mm-hmm. The problem is that looking at what's ahead for us, I would not undo what's ahead. I just wouldn't. And if they were given 21 episodes of television for this season, they're heading in a direction that has literally nothing to do with what they set up in this episode. And I'm happy with the direction they go. So it's like, I guess if they were trying to address these themes, I guess I don't know where I would have put it.
I mean, I feel like you can have subplots, or you can have multiple main plots going at the same time, and you can just weave them differently. Because I would have felt very differently about this episode if we had gotten a couple of scenes of Felicity in the studio.
Mm-hmm. You know what? It's occurring to me. Maybe we needed it before Todd Mulcahy Part 1. Maybe we needed this between Friends and Todd Mulcahy Part 1.
Yeah.
That was a great, we're taking a breath. We've wrapped up a couple things. Maybe this is something that bridges the gap between that and the new storyline they're going to create. I think that would have worked for me a whole lot better. And maybe I would not have had any issues with this episode if it had come at a different time.
Yes. Maybe it would have made sense for it to be before Todd Mulcahy Part 1, but during the 2-part episode, maybe they sprinkle in a few things like Ben is at the hospital saying I'm at the hospital, but I should be swimming right now. So
yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's always nice to have the threads that continue beyond the episode that even when you've got a bottle episode, when it's like this story was meant to be self-contained, usually you do continue to see little threads that get pulled for the fans. So had they put this episode before Todd Mulcahy Part 1, right after Friends, it would have you could have had a couple of those little threads be pulled. Ben would have still been in the pool. There would have been some of those things that continue, but then you could have started sort of clean with the stuff that comes out of Todd Mulcahy's Part 1 and 2, leading into what naturally seems to follow it without that interruption. I wish they had done that.
Well, and I wonder, and this is, again, just going to be my memory, were there any fantastic Javier scenes in Todd Mulcahy Part 1 and 2?
No, I think he's the one character that really doesn't do much in those, right? I mean, Todd Mulcahy Part 1, he doesn't have an experience. I think Todd Mulcahy Part 1, they're gonna Felicity and Elena are gonna take the test for Dr. McGrath's seminar. Todd shows up in Dean and DeLuca, but I don't believe he ever sees or interacts with Javier. So I think it would have made no change, to be honest.
We solved it. All right. From now on, or when rewatching, just watch this one before Todd Mulcahy Part 1 and 2, and then go on to the next one.
It's such a shame that there was this easy an answer. Why?
Well, we haven't done it. So we'll have to go back and test that. Others, if you feel as we do that this may have been misplaced, try it and let us know your reactions to it.
Well, also, not for nothing, Todd Mulcahy Part 1 aired February 9th, very close to Valentine's Day. So come on, folks. I feel like some people in the writer's room got their index cards swapped or something. I don't know.
Well, maybe, but that was like Todd's doing the grand romantic gesture for Valentine's Day.
He could have done it on February 16th.
That's true. And I mean, in all fairness, it ends with him being hit by a bus and him having a fiance. So it's not like a truly romantic episode.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, why? They pay us the big bucks for the podcast, but not to rewrite the show.
Not to do their job for them.
Yeah. Look, I love this show. It's a great show. Even the episodes I don't love, I still love. This just got, our worst rating so far is all.
Yeah, it's all comparative.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. Look, we would love to hear from you listeners because we have griped about this episode from moment one of this podcast. And maybe you loved it, or maybe you too don't want to talk about this and want to talk about something else. Write us, let us know. You can reach us at themelissafish@gmail.com. That's Melissa with 1 L, 2 S's, themelissafish@gmail.com. Also, come join us on Instagram. There's so many cool people we're meeting there. We're at Felicity Podcast. And if you would like to know when episodes drop, we send out a newsletter when they do. And so you can sign up for that to be informed when a new episode comes out by checking out the show notes. There's going to be a link in the show notes to sign up. So that is all the housekeeping. But I'm looking forward to the next episode. We're going to talk about an episode called The Fugue.
Oh, that's intriguing.
Mm-hmm. I am very excited to look at that one, actually, with you. So that'll be fun.
Nice.
Yeah. But anything else that you want to say about this one, Fishes? Is there any other way we can critique it or be scathing or nice? I don't know. Anything else?
I think we have thoroughly skewered it. I do just want to say just a brief shout out and thank you to those who did reply on Instagram to Melissa trolling me about how to eat a sausage in support of the you can eat a sausage with a fork or however else you'd like. Does not necessarily have to be cut up with a knife and, la-di-da, I'm fancy in eating a sausage. So thank you. I appreciate you. I hear you. You're wonderful. Yeah, what have you got to say, Melissa?
Look, there were people who agreed with me. All right.
Yeah, there was one person.
There weren't exactly a lot of people who were jumping in and supporting you. I think you're overinflating a little bit. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Guys, this is like maybe the biggest fight we've had in a long time, except for the time when we argued over the meaning of the word quaint.
Look, don't start. Do not bring these nice people into that argument.
Well,
it
happens. Sorry. Yeah. Guys, a place can be quaint if it's not in New England, right?
No, don't start. It's going to end the podcast and it's going to be over.
That's true. Yeah. If you don't see us talk about season 1, episode 16, this is where it all came apart. Yeah, we just sort of poked at each other until we decided to disband. Yeah. So
we have very strong feelings about this.
Yeah, hopefully it won't end in that sort of outcome because that would be awful.
There will be no winners.
Yeah, we would all be losers. That's fine. Well, Okay, so I guess we've done it for today. I guess we've tackled everything there is to be tackled. We've skewered, as you said, this episode, and then also tried to point out the funny stuff, but we've done it. We've done it all. And until next time, fish, don't hook up with Ben while I'm gone.
I'm a fish.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.